Anyway, hey everybody, this is Will Jarvis. This is episode 2 of Tanjo TV, and today I've got Rick Bain with me. Rick, how are you doing?
Good, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, I'm great. So I'm going to give you a little background on Rick to get started. So Rick is an expert at the intersection of business and energy. Would that be, is that an accurate?
It's accurate, yes.
Awesome, awesome. So, what I want to get started with is kind of, your background, how you got started, how you got to the, kind of current business you're in. And, you're really an interesting person. I've learned a lot from you about business and how to really be successful. And there's a lot of things I think you do really well that a lot of people could get a lot of value from.
Okay. So, where do you want me to start?
For sure. So, let's go all the way back. Back to school. How you got started with that, and then how you moved immediately out to the workforce.
Right. Well, yeah, my background has been, from I'm a Pennsylvania boy, Western Pennsylvania, and was able to attend a great state system
For sure.
in Pennsylvania, and economics majors, and had a graduate study at Penn State, strategic planning.
Nice.
And then had the opportunity to work in, I call it the 3 E's, environment, energy, and economic development.
Gotcha.
Kind of overlap. So I've worked within the utility industries. I've worked with environmental companies. I've worked for economic development groups, capital reuse of buildings, and recruiting companies in. And now currently I'm working with a technology company that is dealing with plug load.
Cool.
Yeah. Just got back from a conference where we were taking a look at new technologies and what's transpiring with the Internet of Things.
Right.
So, but that's the big part of it. My big focus, though, what I find out across all venues is it's all about any of this business is relationship building.
Correct.
It's always about either playing it forward or giving back.
Right.
And it's not always for the profit or the almighty dollar.
Definitely.
So that's just my simple philosophy.
Sure, that's awesome. I really think you do that well, and it's something Richard does well too. It's like, you really do give a lot, and it's constantly, like, what can I give, and that seems to be so key when you kind of get out of, what can I take, and then you kind of get to the mode. You realize, like, if you're just trying to give all the time, you get a lot more accomplished that way.
Well, I have to tell you, it's a funny story about that, because in one of the venues that I'm doing, and I've done a lot of with contaminated sites and brownfield sites. But I had an opportunity here just recently doing business with someone that I've known probably for about 17 years.
Wow.
And we've been friends and relationships and always wanted to do something. Now it's come to that point after all that time.
Right.
The ability to be able to do that.
For sure.
So it's all about that connectivity and relationship and not giving it a term and say, well, if I can't do anything in a year or 2 years, I'm just going to dismiss that person or that organization. Yeah, what always goes around comes around. So
For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about energy and where you think the future of energy is going, and what you kind of feel about that. Like, what kind of technologies should we be looking for?
Well, I think what you're going to take a look at, where everybody took a look at energy, and when I say energy, you have your source base, and then you actually have what I call within the envelope aspect of things. And I think what people need to take a look at is source base is one thing. Of course, we're looking at the integration with battery, with solar. Eventually, I think what you're going to see is the adaptive reuse of carbon in some capacity, recapturing, storing it, and utilizing it. I think from that source point, you're going to see that. You're going to see my philosophy is you're going to see the possibility of using thorium instead of uranium in regards to nuclear power. There's some great companies out there. I think it's just getting over that bridge on the use and the channels for energy, where you have your traditional utilities and they're getting more involved with these companies and subsidiaries and going to basically their remunicipalization of utilities or private utilization of it. And I think it could be a win-win between the occupants of buildings and the utilities. So I don't think it's a win-lose. I think it's definitely a good segmentation about what can be done.
Definitely.
So that's a source part of it. And when I take a look at within the envelope, I think you're going to see more embedded items like embedded lighting.
Gotcha.
You're going to see the connectivity of voice recognition, artificial intelligence to a certain degree, just makes people's lives easier.
For sure.
One of my big things, and that's why I took a look at it, is everyone's buying all these electronics and everything, but they don't realize the use of the energy they have.
Right, right.
So I think plug load is going to be huge to deal
Gotcha.
with that.
For sure.
Complement that. And I just think it's between policy and utilities incentives.
Definitely.
And the big thing is education.
For sure.
Educating people what to do
Right,
and how
right.
to do it.
Cool.
Because they get frustrated. Nobody
Sure
loves to
do.
read a manual about how to hook things up. So I think it's ease of use is going to be the key.
Definitely. That will be huge. So I mean, I'm interested to get your feedback on this. You mentioned nuclear energy and thorium reactors. You know, the future seems to be nuclear to a certain extent. It's a lot cleaner than a lot of other energies. There are some risks, but the industry is so incredibly regulated because of 3 Mile Island, because of Fukushima, because of Chernobyl, right? People are really scared of nuclear power, even though it can do a lot of good, especially the new smart reactor technology
Right.
coming out.
And I'm not an expert in that. I touch on that stuff just on the edge, just to learn a little bit more about
Right.
it. But from everything I've seen, I won't name companies, but there's a lot of companies out there that are taking a look at the use of thorium. I mean, it has its ups and downs with it,
For sure.
along with anything else. But it's the cost and the staging of it, where you could put a reactor in a building this size versus taking 10 years to construct and
Right.
everything else. So I think with that, and that may be one source, there might be other sources. But I think people just need to take a look at, not to be a pawn on smart grid, but they need to be smart how they put their grids together.
For sure.
A perfect example of that's like what's happening in Africa and India now. They have
Right.
no grid. So they have the opportunity to create microgrids,
For sure.
smart grids, and nanogrids now
Definitely.
from scratch versus having to take a look at redoing the whole large system.
Wow, that'll be incredibly powerful. Definitely. So in this next section, we kind of talk about, I'll give you a word, and I want your feedback on whether or not it's overrated or underrated, and why.
Okay.
And so this first one is solar energy.
I would say, I won't say over or under related. I think it needs to be, more defined in
Gotcha.
regards to solar, of how it can be embedded, how you work it.
Right.
There's a lot of companies that will do the installation, and you pay for the energy through them, and then you can buy the system at the end of it.
Right.
So you've got people that will do it, early adopters that want it. And even if solar's been around, there's still early adopters in that aspect of it. How do
Sure.
we embed it? I think you're going to see, and that's why I go back to the area. It's not gonna be just solar. It's not going to be just. You're going to see embedded.
Gotcha.
You're going to see solar embedded into roofing tiles.
Right.
And it's going to be, someone says, okay, I'm going to buy a roof, I'm going to buy solar.
Right.
So I'm going to buy a separate solar
I
system.
see.
I'm going to buy these. So I think that technology is evolving on that. I think the bundling is important, where you see
Interesting.
solar with battery storage, and there might be some other items. to
Right,
consider.
right.
So you have a bundled system and not just a defined individual system.
For sure. Gotcha. So they kind of that complete solution instead of
Complete
that point.
solution. Complete bundle.
Right. So a lot of that seems to be about ease of use for the consumer, right?
Ease of
That
use.
it's really important.
You gotta make it, I don't want to use it, you don't dumb it down, you just make it ease of use.
Right. Use just work.
Yes.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. We've been talking a lot about that around here. Virtual reality. I don't know if you've ever put on the HTC Vive or the Oculus
I
Rift.
haven't done that yet.
Right. It's a 30-minute to an hour-long process to get it working. It's just, I think the ease of use is not quite there yet because
Right.
you need to be able to plug it in and it needs some work.
Right, yeah. And I think people, I just like human nature. People want things, but they want things to happen quick.
Exactly.
And sometimes it takes a little bit of a while to get acclimated to a
Right,
product
right.
or service. And then once it's done, then it's
off
done.
to the races.
Right.
Gotcha. Cool. So this next item I have is China. Overrated or underrated?
I believe that China, to a certain degree, is underrated. People have their novelties and notations about them, but what they're doing in some of their energy districts and some of the other work over there, they're definitely proliferating solar more and more. I I think because of world pressure in regards to
For sure.
pollution standards. But I think overall they're creating smart areas. LED lighting, of course, a lot of manufacturers over there with that arena. But I think a lot of them are doing more of the embedded community-based
For sure.
systems where they don't normally do that before.
Definitely. Interesting. So you're an economics major, so I've got a special question here. Overrated or underrated? Keynesian economics.
That's tough.
Tough to tell.
Yeah. There's so much, so many things going on right now with the markets, with this globalization in regards to how approaching supply and demand,
For
and
sure.
supply. I think we're changing and so dynamic. I think you may take a look at a combination of Keynesian economics, but also you may see a transition over a period of time as markets develop, that you're going to see some, it's not going to be again defined one way, it's going to be a hybrid.
Interesting.
That aspect of it.
Gotcha. That's interesting. And, I want to get your feedback on, the negative interest rates in Japan, Sweden, Switzerland's -2 now, in Germany. What does that really mean? While concurrently, stock markets are, record highs right now. So, do you have any insight on what's going on?
When I take a look at that, not as much as I've not bailed out of my financial background and stuff, but haven't probably spent as much time as not anywhere near experts that are already out there with that type of thing.